Bol.
Hare Krishna. So today we have the good fortune of association of His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj. Hare Bol. The great souls are actually called as Krishna Kripa Shri Murti. As Maharaj was explaining the other day, that Krishna Shakti is the basis for preaching. So the knowledge is not different from Krishna, but it is disseminated by the mercy of the great souls, the great Vaishnavas, who are carrying Krishna within their hearts. So therefore they are called as Krishna Kripa Shri Murti. So they are the epitome, the symbolic representation of the mercy of Krishna. So verse number 4 of Nectar of Instruction, as Maharaj has been taking this series over here, talked about that affection between the devotees. Affection with the devotees is the cause of all the limbs of devotional service. So Maharaj was explaining that the different limbs of devotional service cannot begin itself unless there is kripa of a devotee which has come on a person, and such kripa is actually can be most wonderfully disseminated by the Mahabhagavats. So we find in the person of Maharaj that in his association, as Maharaj comes over here, how all of our devotional service gets more and more enhanced. Specifically speaking, Maharaj, as the devotees, as you were telling in an example, that the magnetism along with electricity, if it goes together, then it's like the more force, more attraction which comes to the Lord and the devotees. Similarly, when the devotees are able to express their affection in presence of the Guru, then their hearts emotionally gets bind to the Guru. And then, as you said, that the main respect which we have towards the spiritual master, towards the Guru, is that we are able to follow the instructions of the Guru. Otherwise it's all superficial. And that happens specifically when the emotional attachment towards the Guru also grows. In order to do that, when we could express, you mercifully allowed us, Krishna Kripa Shri Murti, you also showed mercy by accepting certain exchanges of affection from the side of the devotees. I am sure that all the Vaishnavas, all the devotees over here, they have become more and more bound. How many of you feel that because of Maharaj's mercy the other day, all of your hearts are more bound to Maharaj so that you can follow the instructions of Maharaj even more nicely? Please say Hari Bol. We are very grateful to you, Maharaj, that you allow us to serve you, please you in some insignificant ways. We are not able to offer you properly. Today, Maharaj, last time Maharaj spoke on Nectar of Instruction verse 4, where he said that the knowledge is the main aspect which is exchanged between the devotees. The great personality and the younger devotee, knowledge is the main aspect, because that knowledge of Krishna is not different from Krishna. So that's the main aspect which is there. Maharaj also said that the devotees are like spatika, crystals, and in the presence of great personality, we also reflect the same Shakti, the same type of attachment they have to Krishna, that can also reflect in our own hearts. Today Maharaj will describe verse number 5 of Nectar of Instruction. Come, let's welcome His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj by 3 times loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasna Gurudaya Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacharya Tarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the previous verse concerned how to associate with devotees, because the previous verse talked about you should avoid bad association, and obviously you should have good association. So that's very favorable for devotional development. And we also know that this sadhu sangha is one of the 5 primary elements of bhakti. And also we know that the cause of Shraddha itself, was the qualification for bhakti, is a mercy of devotees, which is association. And then the first step after Shraddha is to associate with devotees to get knowledge so that we can practice bhakti properly. And then after we practice bhakti, then there is constant association all the way up into prema. So that association with devotees is a primary factor all the way through devotional service. So verse 4 was a general statement of how one associates. And it's not only in bhakti, we can also apply that same principle in the material world. In fact, I think the original verse comes from some other context, actually. I've seen it in some other places, but it's not exactly spiritual. So its association in general also is carried out in these ways. But it also applies to devotion as well. So it's useful for us to analyze it. However, that was a very general type of statement, the exchange between association of devotees. But we also know that devotees are of different types, are different grades, and consequently the way in which we associate also is slightly different in that when we're associating with different types of devotees. So that is brought out in this text 5, and we see that the first line talks about respecting in the mind. So we don't physically or even vocally do anything, but at least we give them some physical or some mental respect. As long as they somehow chant the holy name, Krishnayati Yasya Giri. So if his words, he has some words which say the name Krishna, and then okay, we give him some mental respect. And then if one has a Diksha, which means he's seriously chanting, obviously, then one respects with a pranati, with actual physical manifestation by bowing down, offering obeisances, prayers, etc. And who was also worshipping the deity. Yeah, he says bhajantam isham. So, but this is different from the Kanishta Adhikari, who actually worships the deity, but he doesn't have Diksha or proper Diksha anyway, and so he doesn't do it with proper knowledge. So this is on one stage. And the other is Sasusaya. With great service, one will respect those who are very knowledgeable of worship, bhajana, vigyam. They're doing pure bhakti, and they also have advanced knowledge and devotion. So one should serve those devotees. So we have 3 ways of associating with different types of devotees. Okay, so we honor all devotees, particularly we can say the Kanishta. Definitely if they're false devotees or aparatis, we don't give the same respect, but if they're Kanishtas, at least we regard them as Vaishnava Praya, almost devotees, so we give them some respect as devotees. Even the aparatis or even the demons or whatever, the devotee does not hate them because he is compassionate to all living entities, but he gives some special respect to the devotees, and especially if they are chanting the holy name of the Lord. So he respects the Kanishtas. And then persons who are more seriously practicing and they have greater knowledge, they've got Diksha, etc., and they're worshipping the deity, of course they're also chanting the holy name, then he offers respects to them, physically speaking. And of course that can, we could say, be upalakshana, that by saying pranati bis or offering respects, this indicates not only respects, but praising with words, etc., and other forms of respect as well. So it's not just offering obeisances. So in other words, he shows more respect to the serious devotee, who says the Madhyam Adhikari. He's gone beyond the Kanishta stage. And to the more advanced devotee, he serves them. Why they more advanced? They are more skillful at worship, bhajana, vigyam. They're very knowledgeable or very advanced in their worship. And he makes this particular point of anyanindari sunya hridam. They're completely free of criticizing others. So here we have 3 ways of associating with devotees. In previous verse was this general exchanges of knowledge, food, and other things, gifts, etc. So we have the Kanishta devotee, who is technically defined as one who worships the Lord but doesn't really worship or respect the devotees. So we're assuming in this case that he may be also chanting the holy name, whatever. Yeah? Or in terms of Lord Chaitanya's definition, he chants the name of the Lord once. So he's considered a Vaishnava of sorts. So that's, we can say, the Vaishnava Praya. He's not seriously dedicated to it, and maybe he's not chanting with good knowledge, but at least he gives some respect to the holy name and he worships the deity, etc. So that is actually what we're studying now in the Bhagavatam in the 11th canto, these verses about the 3 types of devotees. So there were elaborate purports also in relation to this, these different types of devotees. And even in Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains these types of devotees in quite an elaborate way. So the Kanishta has got a positive quality of accepting the worship of the Lord. He's not worshipping devatas, etc. At the same time, he doesn't associate with devotees, so he doesn't get proper knowledge. So he doesn't really clearly distinguish between pure bhakti and mixed bhakti, etc. And he doesn't really understand the goal of all of this. At the same time, he's not overtly offensive by simply doing the worship as to merge into God or something, or Brahman. So therefore he's in a rather borderline category. So we can also call this Namabhas. So in Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur defines Namabhas as chanting the holy name. Of course, one can do it accidentally, but in this case it's not accidental because they're actually worshipping the Lord with faith. So, and then there is Namabhas with faith, which is this case, because it says Shraddhaya Ihate, he does the worship with faith. So he has some intention in his worship. So, but it is called Namabhas because it is not pure bhakti or pure chanting. And why is that? Because of anarthas and ignorance. These 2 obstacles are there, which block the power of bhakti in the holy name, like clouds and fog will block the sun. So anarthas and ignorance will block out the effect of the name, which is actually pure. So therefore it's called Namabhas, a dull image of the name rather than the name fully manifested. Yeah. So why no knowledge? Because he doesn't associate with any devotees, so he can't get any knowledge. And consequently, if he hasn't got knowledge, he must have some anarthas there. So therefore this is the Namabhas stage.
So one question comes that since you said that in the beginning cause of devotion is association, and then after
that's accidental association. Yeah.
So then after that Shraddha comes, then the devotee starts associating with others, sadhu sangha.
Yeah.
So they have not yet come to sadhu sangha stage. It's just Komal Shraddha.
Yeah. They haven't got there. Okay. So we can say they're at the Shraddha stage. They've got some Agata Sukritis by which they worship the Lord, and they got Shraddha, but they haven't got to the stage of associating with devotees. Or they could be even prior to that stage, in which they don't really have the proper faith for pure bhakti yet. But then by accidental association with devotees, these could develop into actually having faith in pure bhakti, etc.
So the reason they don't associate is, what's the reason they don't associate? Because devotee association is quite available, especially by Prabhupada's mercy now. So then why don't they associate?
Because of no faith in pure bhakti. Yeah.
Which means they might be interacting with devotees, but not receiving knowledge.
Yeah. Well, we could say that, but they're not consciously looking for pure bhakti, so therefore in that sense they're not asking pertinent questions about bhakti.
So even if instructed, they won't take it seriously.
Yeah. Well, hopefully at this stage they're borderline, so if they do meet devotees, they may develop a little interest by that association also.
Gradually.
Yeah.
Maharaj, also why this is not called as Namaparad then? Because there is no proper conception of Krishna itself.
Well, there's no intentional criticism of devotees or the Lord or hatred of the Lord, as we see in demons, etc. We see that one avoids those who are dvesha, they hating the Lord, they hating the devotees, they hate bhakti, so they have some hostility towards them. So he'd have no hostility. Just like Ajamil didn't have any hostility, so he's called neutral, no aparad. He didn't have any knowledge, obviously, and he was very sinful, but he had no aparad, no hostility there.
And this, with knowledge, when we start getting the knowledge, actually sometimes what happens, initially a person may not even know what is aparad. But once the devotee gets knowledge, they come to know what is aparad.
Yeah.
So at that time, the conscious avoidance of aparad happens. But seems like here, they don't even have the knowledge properly. So how conscious...
We can say in one sense it's aparad, but it is not intentional. There's no hatred involved in it.
We can say that they are not dveshis. That means they are not. They don't hate devotees, but they might
it's
commit...
out of ignorance.
Out of ignorance, they might commit aparads.
Yeah. So one can mentally respect those persons. Manasa adriyate. So then the next stage was to actually offer respects, not just mentally, but actually we physically do that. So this indicates a higher stage. So after the Kanishta, we have the Madhyama Bhakta. So this is a very important stage because this is the stage of pure bhakti or Sudanam. So the person accepts Krishna as the absolute truth. He accepts the name as non-different from Krishna. He understands the goal is prema, not material things, so therefore he doesn't mix material desires or desire for liberation with his bhakti. He doesn't just chant once. He's a sadhana of chanting continuously. And he avoids asatsanga. So we have the quality of the devotee that he avoids those who are inimical, etc. Teaches the innocent. Associates with devotees, and he honors Guru and takes Diksha. So, of course, the Diksha here is also related with deity worship, because the previous person also was worshipping the deity Archayam. So this person also has for the Lord, he has bhakti or prema or whatever like that. So he may also have deities, and he takes Diksha with proper knowledge of the process of bhakti, which is Vaishnava Diksha. Others who may be even worshipping the Lord, they may be offenders actually, they may also take Diksha. Of course, it's not Diksha and a bona fide Vaishnava Sampradaya, but they'll get Diksha of a Vishnu mantra or a Krishna mantra, and they'll be worshipping the deity. So impersonalists or Mayavadis can take Diksha or whatever and worship the deity also, so they may look like they are Vaishnavas, but actually their intention is to merge into the Brahman ultimately and give up the worship. So that's offensive. So that's not really the same type of Kanishta Adhikari. They may look like they are, but they're actually different. So it's a different type of Vaishnava. Vaishnava Diksha, but it's not real Vaishnava Diksha. So Lord Chaitanya, when he met the devotees from Navadvip the second time, then he said that anyone who continuously chants Krishna Nam Nirantara Jahar Vadane, he has constantly the name of Krishna in his mouth. He is Vaishnava Shrestha, and you worship his feet. So that's the pranati you mentioned there, that one worships him nicely. So, the prema is for the Lord, the maitri or friendship is with the adinas, which are the devotees, those who are dependent on the Lord. The kripa is to the balishu, which means the balisheshu, the innocent people, and the upeksha, or ignoring or avoiding, is the dvishatsu, those who hate the Lord and hate the devotees and hate devotional service. So these are the different types of activity in relation to the madhyama devotee. So the obviously those factors of mentioned in the fourth verse don't really apply to the Kanishta because he doesn't associate with devotees. So it has to indicate at least the Madhyama devotee. So, and we see that Maitri, he has friendly relationships with the devotees. So that's there. And we saw there was exchange of knowledge, guhim akati pritchati, to ask and receive. So he is the one that the Balisha is the one who asks, and he's the one that gives the knowledge there. So there's an exchange there, but he's the giver of the knowledge, and the Kanishta would be the receiver. Or even if he's not a Kanishta, if he's a lower Madhyama, then he would be getting the thing. So there's a little bit of a differentiation between the two persons, the one giving and the one receiving, of superior and inferior in that sense. So that's the Kripa aspect. And as far as Maitri, of course, among devotees, then there can be the exchanges of food and gifts and whatever like that, or even with the lower persons. Both those can take place, those activities, giving and receiving. It mentions Diksha here in the... Diksha asti chet, if he has Diksha. Of course, technically the Madhyamadikari is not defined by Diksha or whatever. He's defined by these qualities here, which doesn't mention Diksha, but and even here it doesn't mention anything about Diksha either. However, we should investigate what is the Diksha actually, the meaning of Diksha. And in the Upadeshamrita, in the commentary, we find this. The first verse here is mentioned in relation to Diksha. Divya Gyanam yato dadyat kuryat papis sankshayam tasma diksheti saprokta deshikais tatvakovidai. But that should not be separated from the second verse, which is not quoted, but which is quoted in the Bhakti Sandarbha. So the two verses actually go together. I think they're from Padma Purana or whatever like that. So this gives a definition of Diksha. We can say it's not a complete definition of Diksha, but it gives us the essence of what the Diksha is. But we have to get the second verse along with the first verse. Otherwise, the Diksha becomes an exclusive principle of getting knowledge. But actually, Shiksha Gurus also give knowledge. So unless we take the second verse, we won't get the real meaning of what Diksha is. So, Diksha here in the first verse gives two, it means two things. Divyaganam yatodadyan, that from which one gets divyaganam, spiritual knowledge. And kuryat papasya sangshayam, destruction of sin. So two elements are mentioned as part of Diksha. And therefore it's called Diksha. Now, of course, Diksha does many other things, but these two things are selected. And the reason is that it's an analysis of the word Diksha. So Dis stands for Divya Gyanam, and Ksha for Papasya Sangchaya, destruction of sin and bestowal of spiritual knowledge. So that is Diksha. Of course, we can also say that without Diksha, just chanting holy name does the same thing if you have Shiksha. So if you chant the holy name, you destroy all your sins also. And you can realize the Lord, so you get Divyaganam also. So technically, that's why I say you cannot isolate this verse and say Diksha, therefore, only the Diksha Guru gives Divyaganam and destroys your sin. We can't say that. But certainly it does that. So therefore, Shiksha also does the same thing. So we can't say that this is, therefore, the Diksha Guru is special, because he's the one that destroys your sin and gives you the transcendental knowledge, and the Shiksha Guru or nobody else does that. Doesn't mean that. But it is one aspect of it, one quality of Diksha that does that. So that's why we have to take the second verse into consideration. Therefore, you offer respects to the Guru, Guru pranamya, sarvasam nivedya, vinivedya, offer everything to him, offer yourself to him, etc., surrender to him completely. And then griniyat Vaishnav mantram, Diksha purvam vidanata. According to the rules of Diksha, one should take Vaishnav mantra. So that's actually the important part of what Diksha is, to distinguish it from Shiksha, that we get a Vaishnav mantra from the Guru. That's also made clear in the commentary of Jiva Goswami. So he says, what is Divyaganam in that verse? And then he says, Sarup Ganam, Bhagavat Sarup Ganam. Knowledge of the Sarup of the Lord. Where? In the mantra. So in other words, we get the Divyaganam and the Papasya Sanchayam, the knowledge and the destruction of sin, through the mantra. But we can also argue, I get it through Hare Krishna also, which is also true. But we're talking about Diksha here. So this talks about the Diksha mantras which we get during our second initiation. That is what gives you the Divyaganam and Papasya Sanchayam. We can also argue that we already got it because we're chanting Hare Krishna. That's also true. But previous to Lord Chaitanya, there wasn't no Hare Krishna. People weren't using that as the main sadhana. So they'd wander around and look for a guru. They'd get a guru, he would give the mantra, they would chant the mantra, and then when they would progress through that, that was their sadhana, through chanting a mantra and meditation and deity worship. So that's their method of sadhana, actually. But with Lord Chaitanya, we have Hare Krishna, which doesn't need initiation. So this is accomplished earlier, actually, than before the Diksha. Huh? But anyway, this is the thing. So you get Divyaganam through the mantra. So the mantra has the name of the Lord. It tells you worship the Lord. So then we know who the Lord is. In our case, we worship Krishna, and Sri Vaishnava will worship Vishnu or whatever. Some people may worship Rama, etc. So you get the Bhagavat Sarup Ganam there in the mantra. And Bhagavata Sambandha Vishesha Ganam, knowledge of a specific relationship with the Lord. So, of course, we can say the general relationship is one of, I'm Nitya Krishna Das, I'm the servant of the Lord somehow or other, and that's also expressed in all the different mantras. We have Swaha or Namaha to indicate that we are servant of the Supreme Lord. Then there could be more special relationships in terms of rasa, which may be revealed later on by the Guru through Raganuga Bhakti or whatever. So that the people who do Raganuga take this as, okay, Diksha means finally you have to get your Sarup and all this through the Guru. Okay, so anyway, that's the main idea here, that it takes this knowledge and destruction of sin takes place through the Vaishnav mantra, which we get at second initiation. Okay. He also mentions here Sampati Mato Grihastas. Rich Grihastas. It's for rich Grihastas who are following the path of Archana Marga, because the mantras are usually used for deity worship. And then deity worship involves expenses and whatever, so you need a rich Grihasta to establish a temple and do all that sort of thing. So there is the rich Grihastas. It's the path for rich Grihastas. Huh? Okay, so that's Diksha. So it's quite clear. But as I said, we also get through the name, just chanting Hare Krishna. We don't need Diksha, but we get the knowledge, and we can establish a relationship with the Lord also. So that's called Bhagavata Marga as opposed to Archana Marga. Now, of the two, for us, Nama is more important because it's the Yuga Dharma. Therefore, we can say, well, why do we need Diksha at all? So this is also explained in the Bhakti Sandarbha. The new devotees have restless minds. So therefore, Archana Marga is often recommended to engage all of the senses. People can say, well, how do I meditate on the Lord? So then you have a deity, you look at the Lord. Then you don't have to speculate about the Lord. You can just devote yourself to the form of the Lord that you see in the deity and chant, thinking of that Lord, and then and serve that Lord with your senses and whatever, and then you can progress nicely. So it helps engage our senses. So therefore, deity worship is also recommended along with the process. And we know that the 5 elements of important elements, deity worship is among them. Archana is also there. So therefore, usually the Diksha goes along with the chanting of Hare Krishna. Of course, we can say that previous to Lord Chaitanya, Diksha had a much more important role because there was no other process really. So they had to get a mantra to worship or meditate, and so they had to get the Diksha to do that. But with Nama, then you don't need that because it's open for everybody. So therefore, it takes a less of a role in one sense. However, we can say we see within the Gaudiya Sampradaya itself that Diksha continued, and it continued to be emphasized also. So we have whole Diksha Paramparas which were emphasized in tradition through, Narottam and Srinivasacharya and Shamananda and Nityananda and Janava and Advaitacharya and Gadadhar Pandit's line. All these lines were there. And they emphasized them quite a lot actually. So why would that be? Of course, we can give material reasons for that, but then the more esoteric reason is that the Raganuga sadhana came through those lines, and that's done after Diksha. And that's not part of this. Diksha is separate, but generally after they got the Diksha, then they would get some instruction on Raganuga sadhana, and that particular line would have their particular mode of doing it. So therefore, those traditions were carried on within that. So therefore, the Diksha became important for that also, to preserve those particular traditions of Raganuga. Okay, so anyway, we have the 2 aspects here. Bhagavata Marga, with which we need Shiksha also. It's not that we can't have Guru, but we need Guru also to get some knowledge so we can chant purely. So we need the Shiksha. And then the main thing is chanting the holy name and Kirtan. Pancharatrik Marga is Diksha, and its specific use is in deity worship. Archana, and we have specific mantras which are secret and are not public. So generally we combine these 2 things together. So this particular definition merely says you get mantra, and that's how some people were initiated. In Gopal Kumar and Brihad Bhagavatamrita just got a mantra from his guru. The guru disappeared. He didn't even give him any teachings. And that was it. He didn't even get a name. The only time he got a name was after several days of Brahma. when Krishna saw him, he gave him his name. But he didn't have a spiritual name before that. He's just the Gopal Kumar, that was all. So he just got the mantra. That was all he got. He didn't even get name at that time. There's no chanting of the kirtan even at that time. He got that also after several days of Brahma. Huh? So anyway, that's one way, just get the mantra finished. The other is more elaborate. According to Pancharatra, we have the 5 elements called the Pancha Samskar. So one is tilak, another is tapa, getting branded with shankha and chakra. Another is getting a name, Krishnadas or Balaji or whatever. Getting mantra, which is the most important element, and then you're qualified for archana. So these are the 5 purificatory elements of Diksha. So typically, when you get your Diksha, then you're supposed to get your particular tilak of that sampradaya. So it's not that just everybody can stick on tilak and wear it. You're supposed to take your Diksha and then get your tilak and all that sort of thing like that. But we do the opposites. But technically, you like each group has their particular. Narottam has his tilak, Shamananda has his tilak, Advaitacharya, their parampara has their tilak, Nityananda's parampara have their tilak. So when you join that and get the Diksha, then you wear their particular tilak, etc. Okay, so that's the actual Diksha. There is another type of Diksha, that's Vedic Diksha, which is completely separate. Yeah? So this is part of the samskars, which are not really related to the Vaishnava initiation technically. So there we have, Jat Karma and Simantanayana, etc. And then finally we get Upanayana, where the child, if he's upper class, upper three Varnas, then they get the Gayatri Mantra, Vedic Gayatri Mantra, and they're qualified to study the Vedas. That's called Upanayanam Samskara. And they have a whole Vedic sacrifice to go along with that. And then they get the Vedic Mantra, and that qualifies them for studying the Vedas. So that's a Vedic type of Diksha. Which was done by Lord Chaitanya when he was 5 years old or so. He got his Upanayanam Samskar, and all the other associates of the Lord also, when they were children, they got it. And the Vaishnava Diksha, Lord Chaitanya got much later when he went to Gaya. So that's a separate, completely separate thing. And it remained separate up until the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then when he came along, he added that on to the Diksha. After the Diksha, then he put in the Vedic Samskar as well. So it's an add-on. It's not an essential part of the Vaishnava Diksha. It's a separate thing. So, why? Why would he do that? The main reason was that people were criticizing the Gaudiya Vaishnavas because many were not Brahmanas. And they were claiming that if you want to do worship Shalagram, Shila, or deities, you should be Brahman. And therefore, most of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not qualified to worship the deity. So his counter-argument, of course, was that anyone who's Pancharatrically initiated is qualified to worship the deity. So that's there in Pancharatra also, you're qualified. And then he's also said that the Vaishnava is superior to the Brahmana. And he quotes this verse from Bhagavatam that the dog-eater who once utters the name of the Lord purely or meditates on the lotus feet of the Lord, then he is qualified to do the sacrifices that a Brahmana does. So this is used to illustrate that the prabdha karma of being born as a dog-eater disappears when you chant the holy name once purely. So you're no longer a dog-eater. So therefore you're qualified to do whatever a Brahmana could do, because you're not a dog-eater anymore. So therefore, he says, if you get Diksha, that indicates that you're actually practicing pure bhakti. If you're practicing pure bhakti, then you're qualified to do everything. So they say, we give them the mantras and the Vedic Gayatri also, let them give them a thread, etc. So then he added this on to counteract the opposition of certain Brahmin elements in Bengal at that time. So that's how the Brahma Gayatri gets in there, only for that reason. So we also have another thing here, and that is, I see here there's three divisions here. This one's the second one, or third one. And we got the second one, that's when you get the Krishna mantra, but technically they happen at the same time, more or less, and they get all mixed up. They're all one time, and for us. In Gaudiya Mat, they don't do it, it's separate. You get your Vaishnava mantra, later on, maybe the same day or whatever, they do have the Vedic sacrifice, Upanayanam Samskar, and all of the people gathered, even the Grihastas, and even the villagers and whatever who are there, then they take the Upanayanam Samskar, with the full Vedic sacrifice mentioned in Satkriya Sardipika. So they're actually separate, but we do it and we merge them together at the same time. And we also have the Pancha Samskar gets divided up also. So in our system we have what we call Harinam Diksha, which technically isn't Diksha, but we call it Harinam Diksha, and because Harinam doesn't need Diksha. But we can say it's part of Diksha because we do get the tapa, we don't get the tapa, but we get the tilak and we get the name like Krishna Das or Venkateshwar Das or whatever like that. So we get the name, but we get the tilak. Of course we get the tilak before also, but I guess they put it on now and you get your beads and all that. So we can say that at least the Krishna Das element is part of Pancha Samskar. So part of the Diksha is taking place there. Yeah? But the major part actually is of the Diksha, shastrically speaking, is this part here, what we call the second initiation. Yeah. So the first part, the two divisions were not there previously also. That's a recent innovation. We can say it's a Prabhupada's innovation. And even in Bhakti Siddhanta, this was not called Diksha at all, first thing. It's just Namdan, that's all. The Diksha is here. But here we get the Diksha as the first, the Diksha as the second, and Diksha as this also. So we got three things called Diksha, all merged into one, which makes it a little ambiguous in one sense. It's the Shiksha, Diksha, and Vedic Samskar as well. It's all three things in one. So anyway, that is what the word Diksha means nowadays, but technically it meant the mantra originally, just getting that mantra, this thing here, Krishna mantra here, which qualifies you for the archana.
One reason for Prabhupada to give this Harinam as a Diksha, as far as what we have seen and heard, that he wanted that the devotee should take the Nama seriously. So the commitment to the spiritual master, because he takes a vow in front of the spiritual master.
Yeah,
So whether
yeah.
we call it as Diksha or not call it as Diksha, but since it's a commitment, so now the obligation on the disciple becomes more heavy, that I cannot go back on my words.
Yeah.
Whereas if he doesn't commit to the Guru, in front of the Guru, he doesn't say that I will do this, then he can go back anytime. So we can say it's for, maybe it's weak devotees, for them it's necessary. But then Prabhupada saw that most of the people in Kali Yuga are quite weak. So therefore he made this as a formal initiation, the first part, which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't do.
Yeah.
But Prabhupada saw that they are not going to do it anyway, so at least we make it formal.
Yeah.
So don't you think that it becomes a very sort of important strategy necessary for the weak devotees today? When we can say most of the devotees are weak. To give them strength, this becomes a favorable thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whatever is favorable, we accept it.
Yeah, well, we can also say the same thing about the, what is it called, the Samskar Patra, or what do they call it? The, what do they call that? The Shraddhavan and all this, where you go through different stages up to Prabhupada Asraya, etc. So it's a similar type of thing, actually, for people who are not really up to the complete standard, but it encourages them to advance more and more. So that's also, we can say, one stage of that, maybe the last stage or whatever. But then at the same time, it's a little bit of a misnomer if we call it Harinam Diksha, because shastrically it doesn't make sense. So that's the only problem there. If we call it Diksha Part 1, okay, fine, because you're getting the name. You're getting the name like Krishna Das, in that sense it is, but because we're not getting initiated with Diksha through Harinam, that's another thing. So that's maybe the name is a little bit off.
The difference between those categories of Shiksha, the Shraddhavan, Krishna Seva, Krishna Sadhak, the
Yeah.
difference is that the Guru is not present and they are not taking a vow.
Okay. Well, they could. At any stage, the Guru could be. Then I'm saying it's a little bit arbitrary. We said it like that, fine. But it could be. Then that would take on a significance also.
Yes.
Yeah. If some Guru was there, Shiksha Guru were there. But of course, even then, there is a Shiksha Guru, perhaps.
And generally, we say that Srila Prabhupada is the Siksha Guru.
Yeah.
So he is not present on the planet.
Yeah.
So therefore, the vow is not taken in front of her.
Yeah. But one could take, well, they're making vows, definitely. They're vowing to chant 4 rounds or 16 rounds or whatever, and to read so many books. So there is a vow there also, in front of the temple president or whoever they're doing. So that's a Shiksha Guru. They are making vows also. Huh?
Yet we see that since the commitment of the temple president or whatever, whoever, maybe sometimes the Siksha Gurus, the devotees may not take that seriously.
Yeah,
Because again, the
yeah.
same thing, they may not respect them so much,
Yeah.
whereas they may respect a very great soul
Yeah.
much more.
Yeah.
So therefore the commitment goes very stronger and therefore they can do it lifelong.
Yeah. But then again, the counter argument to that would be, well, they make a commitment, but then they can make a commitment to the Guru, so that Guru usually becomes the Diksha Guru. Yeah. So then their devotion ends up only for the Diksha Guru and nobody else, consequently. So that also creates a problem, because they won't listen to anybody else except the Diksha Guru.
So therefore I think nowadays they are adding one more part in the vow, which is you say that 4 regular principles, 16 rounds, and I'll become servant of the servant in the ISKCON movement.
Okay.
That's also there.
Okay.
Now this third is also there. That you have to say that I'll also try to become a servant of the servant in the ISKCON movement. So then that's how they remove that. You know, it's not just one person. Actually, there is many Siksha Gurus and Vaishnavas, Madhyavadikaris.
Did they change it yet? I don't know. I don't know.
At least for my initiation, that was there. I had to say that. You know.
I don't think they made some rule on that yet in the GBC. I don't think so.
But again, that also becomes a vague term, Guru. Servant of the servant. Servant of the Guru and the servant of the Guru.
In the ISKCON. So, which means many devotees. At least for our initiation, that was there. We had to say it in front of the spiritual master.
Okay. Anyway, we have those 2 levels where the Madhyama is one who associates friendly with the devotees and has the exchanges, and then he teaches those who are inferior in that sense. So there's an exchange of knowledge there also. Then we have the Uttama. So that was more or less indicated when it was called the Bhajana Vigya, one who was expert in bhajana, had knowledge of it. Therefore that's the Uttama devotee, and of course that devotee is a very exalted stage in the Bhagavatam definition, that he sees Krishna everywhere and sees everything in terms of prema and makes no distinctions. So then one has to give him the most respect of all, and one serves him. However, we can also say that though it may apply to the Uttama, it can also apply to superior Madhyama. So a lower Madhyama serves the higher Madhyama, whatever, and he gets instruction from him, and he asks the question, and the higher person explains it to him. So in that sense, there's a relative Uttama there. So the same exchange of knowledge would take place between the Madhyama and the Uttama. So this particular verse from the Upadeshamrita applies basically to the Madhyamadikari, who distinguishes between the different types of devotees, and those who are lesser, like the Kanishta, he can mentally respect them. He can also give them teachings. He offers respects to the devotees who are serious and undergo initiation or worshipping the deity, and he serves those who are in a higher platform. So this is considered to be the key to success in devotional service, how he interacts with the different types of devotees. So the Uttama's on the top, so he does service to him and follows his instructions, interacts equally with the Madhyamas, and he gives instruction to the inferiors.
This means that as the knowledge of the scripture will increase, the vision towards the people, and specifically towards Vaishnavas, that's changing, because it seems like Kanishta doesn't even know the importance of Madhyama association and respecting them and serving them, and as you said, even glorifying them, praising them, etc. All that is there. So it seems like even though some people may hear this, if they don't have faith on this, then they remain the Kanishtas.
Yeah. That's why I said the faith has to be faith in pure bhakti. So they develop that interest in pure bhakti, then they're willing to listen, they accept it.
Right. That means the goal, if it's clear that I want Krishna Prem, then naturally a person will situate at least in the Madhyama platform. Because if the knowledge is available, then the doubt should not remain that whether should I praise devotees or not, whether should I serve devotees or not. Because the other Madhyamas who are also serious devotees should also be served, should also be praised. In fact, you said affectionately dealing with food and so many other things, gifts, etc. exchange. That becomes a natural part of a devotee's lifestyle if their goal is very clear. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's why I said that we have Sambandha Abhidya Prayojana, so we have to have knowledge of all three, not just one or two. All three are there.
Also, regarding Diksha, a few questions I want to ask. Like, if it is thought by Srila Prabhupada that it will be very favorable for the Kali Yuga Jivatmas, maybe by seeing their degraded condition or whatever, if Prabhupada thought this way, that Harinam should also be made as a Diksha, so should ISKCON devotees for generations to come should not take that same thought process?
No, but Diksha in what sense?
Harinam, like the same thing.
No, but Diksha meaning what though?
Harinam. Harinam.
No, but what does the Diksha mean there? Because the definition of Shastra definition was to give the mantra, and they're not giving the mantra, they're giving name, but they already got the name anyway. They have to chant 16 rounds to get it, so it's not a Diksha in that sense.
We can say it's a commitment to the Guru.
Yeah, so if you want, you can call it Diksha, but then it becomes a little confusing because you can only take one Diksha. So you can't have a first Diksha and a second Diksha, technically speaking.
So I was saying that if the great souls, the Siksha Gurus also, should they not take the thought of Prabhupada and say that maybe it is more favorable for the people, those who are getting inspiration,
Yeah.
if they also do that which Prabhupada did, so then would it not be more favorable for the...
Well, yeah, it's certainly favorable, but there may be a little confusion also, because then that becomes the Diksha for most people. But actually it's not, scripturally it's not. So we should also follow scripture. So, for most people, first initiation is the initiation. Second is you can do it or not do it. So then the Diksha is not important at all in that sense. So the definitions get a little bit cloudy. And they don't really have Diksha in the sense the important part of the Diksha is not there. So, it's a little, in the future we can go further and make other steps, and then the Diksha becomes even more confusing. If we keep going on and modifying that, then
Like from the scriptural Vedic...
But see, there's no objection in one sense, because the main process is chanting the holy name. And that's the prominent process. So anything that's favorable for seriously chanting the holy name, very good. But maybe we shouldn't use those terminologies because it becomes a little bit confusing for the scriptural definition and it contradicts it. That's all.
So, from the perspective of scriptures, Maharaj, this is absolutely correct, that we may not call it as initiation itself, but as we know that whatever is favorable, if that's done, then more and more number of people actually can go back to Krishna Loka, because ultimately Madhyamas want to see that many people are getting Krishna knowledge as well as favorable aspects, so that they can also move towards Uttama. So would it not be very good that great souls also do the, name changing and letting them take the vow in front, so that they are more committed?
There's no sense. Anything that's favorable for chanting is good.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of what we want to call it, that's all. Because
Yes,
then it starts, it becomes a little contrary to the scriptural definitions.
Exactly.
And it may overshadow them also.
So it can go wrong from the Vedic and standard definitions perspective, but otherwise it's a very favorable thing. That's what you say.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Maharaj, if somebody aspires from some great soul, and now his inspiration is coming from that personality, how he should take initiation from another person then? Because it's very difficult.
Well, no, because there are many gurus. And you have Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Guru, one Diksha Guru, and could have many Shiksha Gurus or whatever, and one gives equal respect to them all. So, and one gives more respect to the senior Guru. So therefore there is no real problem in one sense. Unless they're demanding exclusive worship.
The analogy which you told the other day was very striking, and I feel that's what is ringing in my heart right now, that first you get a father, then you get the brothers of the father.
Yeah.
So it's maybe we give the same respect, but then father is surely special.
Yeah, but then grandfather, if you don't have a grandfather, you don't have a father.
We accept Prabhupada as the grandfather, but we need the father also, because that's the connection to the grandfather also, as such.
Yeah. But nevertheless, we give more respect to the grandfather.
One last question which I wish to ask, apart from Diksha, let's go out of the controversial thing. The thing mentioned here is that one should not be criticizing, the Uttama should not be criticizing others. Definitely in the heart, one should not want to criticize others, but as far as we have seen from the typical organizational structure perspective, which Prabhupada gave us and said that it's necessary also. So just like in any organization or in any group of people, you need to do certain things in certain way. Otherwise, it's chaotic, and it's not favorable anymore for devotional service of people. So from that perspective, we will need to find faults, not in devotional service, but definitely in the conduct, in the behavior, and certain other
Well,
things.
when we talk about Ninda, Vaishnava Ninda, this particularly means to, without justification, criticize for different reasons. One could be because of, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the example of birth, because he's got a lower birth that will criticize him. Yeah? So it's not really a valid criticism. Yeah? Or he may have faults, but the idea is that through bhakti the faults will be removed. So if we see that his faults are getting less, then we refrain from criticizing because he's always improving, so we don't want to criticize like that. Or even if he does commit a sinful activity and he corrects himself, then we don't also criticize whatever. Or if he had a previous bad background before he became a devotee, we don't hold that against him. So those are the type of criticisms that are invalid. Yeah? Now, if he's not doing his bhakti properly or he's doing something wrong, then of course we can try to correct the person. That's not Vaishnava Ninda as such.
Since we have gone over time, any one last question if anybody has, Mataji's or Prabhuji's, anyone. Last one question. Okay, that's devotee, raise the hand. Whoever will raise the hand first, I will see and I will give her. So no, last question. Please, quick. Just ask quickly. Ask loudly.
Maharaj, regarding like from what I understood from the lecture, the Diksha is not required other than just for, especially for new devotees who have restless minds, and hence deity worship, you are saying that it protects the devotee from sense gratification, so therefore Diksha is needed. So Maharaj, then what about the Ritwik philosophy, where they say that you just take Diksha from Prabhupada and give respect to all Shiksha Gurus and remain like that? So what do you say about this, Maharaj?
Mm-hmm. Well, the Diksha process is to get the mantra from the Guru, and traditionally then he would teach you the meaning of the mantra, etc. So with the Ritwik philosophy, you can get a tape recording of the mantra, but you don't get any teachings. So it's not very traditional also, because then the whole idea of a parampara disappears. So Vedically, of course, it was very necessary to do it physically, in a sense that one guru would give to the disciple, because everything was very secret, and the Vedas were confined to a small group of people, and they didn't have books or anything. So if you want to learn, the whole Veda, Rig Veda, then you have to go to the gurus to get the Veda. Otherwise, you never learn them, because there's no libraries, there's no books, there's nothing. So it was a complete dependence. And of course, the other reason is, of course, by their special knowledge, or they didn't need tape recorders or whatever, recordings or whatever. But anyway, apart from that, the idea is not just this personal transmission, but there is some potency in the transmission itself from person to person. And that's where the rahasya, or the secret, comes. The potency of the guru is imparted to the disciple. We can argue, of course, that some potency is carried on. Okay, we have the commentaries of the acharyas to read them. Yes, there's something is there. Nevertheless, they still have the other method of direct teaching. So the two things are there. The direct teacher plus the previous teachers. So then the idea of guru and then shastra and sadhu, all three are there. Scripture is there, previous acharyas are there, and then we have the recent devotees. So all three are there. So not only for Diksha, that is mantra, which is secret in general, but also for the teachings. Both things have to be there. Both things come through a parampara system. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave a Shiksha parampara. But then, of course, we also have the Diksha parampara, where the mantras are carried on through the thing as well.
Let us thank His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj by 3 times loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. The devotees can come and take prasadam from us.